contender. This is a game in which the Pistons fell behind early in the contest and really just fighting uphill all night long. You know, you like to see them close the gap, close it in a professional manner, but it's a game which they trailed by 29 points. Cade Cunningham was great tonight, but they just needed a lot. I mean, they needed a lot. You know, a lot of times when you face a team, you got to understand when you're catching them. And right now, the Miami Heat are playing their best stretch of basketball this season. And the Pistons right now are in a stretch right now where they're just trying to right the ship. And so those two things come together, and Miami comes out on top. You know, the facts of the case are the facts of the case. Miami's won 5 straight. Pistons have now dropped 4 straight. But Pistons still have a lot of games left. You still got an opportunity to get right. And obviously, as they head to Brooklyn on Tuesday, a chance to atone for their recent defeat last night against the Nets. But let's talk about tonight. Let's bring in Special K, Greg Kelser. I know you had a chance to call this one alongside George Blahai. And you talked about it, pal. Just the fact that, you know, on a night like tonight, Cade and JD, we'll talk about those guys in a minute. They combined for 50, but they just didn't have a lot of firepower collectively. And in a night like tonight, really the start to this game, call it what you will, the time change, the travel, you know, they're back on the floor like 22 hours after last night's game, just kind of out of sync from the beginning, and that was too big a hole to climb out of.
It really was, but as I said during the broadcast, I do believe in certain things carrying over, and the Pistons lost this game yesterday. It was going to be a tough fight against just about anybody on the road for the Pistons after the disappointment, maybe the worst loss of the season psychologically to the Brooklyn Nets, given all the things that they've had to deal with this year. So to come down here and face this team, it was going to be a huge ask for them to put all of that aside in a short period of time and play well. Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham did. They found a way, but not much else in terms of the help that they were going to need against this Miami team that's playing some of the best basketball of their season. Now, I do expect a bounce back from the Pistons because sure. I know they have character. I know they are that they're all winners now, and they know themselves that they're not playing their best basketball over the last week. And if they're going to get it back, it needs to start right now with what they talk about and the message that's conveyed in the locker room. It needs to happen tomorrow when they come together, be it in the gymnasium, on the bus, on the plane ride to New York, certainly in shoot-around on Tuesday morning, so that when they do take the floor in Brooklyn, they are a different unit than what we've seen over the last week. Yeah, it's in them, but they've got to prove it to themselves and everybody else now.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, you're measured on performance. And so, you know, when you're not winning games, you can say the spirit's good, the confidence is still there, and it still should be. You know, you played too good a basketball for too long to all of a sudden, you know, fold up the tent and say, hey, maybe something's broken here. You're just going through a skid. Like, it doesn't matter the sport. You're going to go through stretches sometimes where it's like, man, we just can't seem to get it. Can't get it right. Last night was one you let get away. Tonight, you're never in the game from the start. But like you said, maybe a carryover from the night before, and that's what you don't want to do as an athlete, allow things to linger and then progress into the next. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you're all over it. We get a little spoiled because the Pistons have avoided, you know, any prolonged droughts. This is the longest of the season, but I think every team has had one. Oklahoma City, the defending champs, they've had one. You know, everybody's had one, and now the Pistons are in theirs. They're probably one of the last teams to experience this.
Yeah, and like in any sport, you know, it's like you don't want to, you know, when you get into that, you know, that final stretch run, it's like, well, now's not the time for the lull. There's never a great time for a lull. You just don't want to be, you know, lulling over the finish line. You know, you got a chance to still get this thing back on track. You know, and the one thing I want to mention just about when talking with JB Bickerstaff about how teams learn, like when they were building this, and Eric Spoelstra talked about it before the game, of how quickly the Pistons were able to identify a brand of basketball and get into immediate contention. You mentioned how the 4 games they lose in a row when JB first took over the job. Then they get this thing turned around, triple the win total from a year prior, make it into the playoffs. Now this year, you know, you're almost going gate to wire as the first place team in the East. And Spoelstra said that's tough to do. You know, that's a testament to the caliber of players they have, and obviously the coaching staff and how they've communicated a message. As JB said, you know, for a lot of our guys, it's different when you're being disrespected or not thought of or spoken of well, when you're just kind of like, Pistons are in town, we should get this one. That's easy to kind of handle that and then say, okay, it's us against the world. it's a totally different element of handling mental toughness when now all of a sudden everybody's singing your praises and they say, man, this team is good. How do you handle prosperity, right? How do you handle success? And as JB says, for a lot of these guys who are experiencing it for the first time, for the most part, we've handled it pretty well. Now you're in a little bit of a lull. They're continuing to learn, and then you're going to learn from each individual experience of how you handle being a team that everybody respects.
Yeah, it's definitely not the end of the world, and I like what Georgia, the question he posed to me about, would you have taken a 2 or 2.5 game lead in March if we were talking about this last September or October? Everybody would have been on board for that, and no one really would have been able to believe it, but here it is. But now that it's here, you want it. You want it. You want it badly for the team, and they want it for themselves because they have held that spot for so very long, and this is as close as any of their pursuers have been in a long time. Boston beating Cleveland on the road today in hot pursuit of the Detroit Pistons and that #1 Eastern Conference seed.
Yeah, and the Miami Heat are a team that they want to get into that, top 6. They want to get out of that playoff or the play-in conversation. And the way they've been playing, especially behind Tyler Hero, 25-6 tonight, using our Xfinity highlights. You watch him play. We knew he was on a heater coming into tonight. This guy's a good player, and he's been a good player for a long time here in Miami. But certainly the production that he has provided in the wake of Norman Powell not being available for them, they've been able to keep this thing going.
He's a huge weapon, and I enjoy watching him play because I like good offense. I like guys that can get it done, give them the basketball, and let him go to work. He has all the skills, yet he will move well without the basketball as well. If you're guarding him, you better be in shape because he's going to run you. He's going to put a lot of pressure on you at all times. If at all possible, you try and keep it out of his hands because when he gets it, he's dangerous, whether he's putting it on the floor or spotting up. An electric player, and he was coming into this game having knocked down 8 of 10 3-pointers in his last outing against Charlotte. Took him a little while to get the 3-pointer going tonight, but when the night is over, he's still plus 20. And in this case, averaging about what he does against the Pistons in his career, mid-20s. Got it again tonight.
Yeah, he did. Another guy that we highlighted before the game, and again, who's been a good player for a long time. There have been some comparisons drawn. Everybody would like to be compared to a guy like Bam Adebayo. 10,000 career points he eclipses tonight. That's saying something. And tonight, again, he was a force.
As he always is, both ends of the floor. For him to play as hard as he does and play as physically as he does, and then to get late at
both ends of the floor. A couple of other guys for the Detroit Pistons, good all-around players, play both ends of the floor, combined for 50 points tonight. Cade also had 10 assists. We'll make Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren our Cure Auto players of the game. Look, they've been the 1-2 punch. When healthy, when on the floor together, it's going to be on their broad shoulders moving forward. They're going to continue to look for leadership from their 2 all-stars to carry this team as deep as they can go.
We know what they're capable of doing. We know that they've been able to do it with great success too. But in order for the Pistons to do well, they do it in numbers, and they do it in deep numbers, which is how they've gotten to where they are so far. Happy for those 2, but it's going to take a little bit more for them to get back in the win column, and they know it.
Yeah, no question about it. Good call from you and George. As always, love listening to you guys. Safe travels, and we'll see you again Tuesday in Brooklyn.
Pistons will be ready.
Yes, sir.
I predict.
You predict?
Yep.
And, hey, I ain't arguing. All right, always good stuff from Special K. When we come back, we're going to continue